It was supposed to be just a quick flight from San Diego to Van Nuys, but midway through, every pilot's worst nightmare, the engine went out. Today we speak with the USC student who landed the plane on the Southern California freeway and lived to tell about it. I'm Eytan Wallace, and this is The Chat. Good afternoon, I'm Eytan Wallace with USC Annenberg Media. Thanks for having us in. Today I'm joined by Izzy Slodowitz, a USC Business School student and pilot. Yesterday he was taking off from San Diego International Airport and was en route over to Van Nuys Airport in the San Fernando Valley. Halfway through that flight, the engine went out, and Izzy miraculously landed on the 55 freeway without injuring a single person, and he and his passenger walked away unhurt. Izzy, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And how are you doing? It's been less than 24 hours since the whole incident occurred. Take us through what happened.
Well, first of all, it's still processing the events afterwards. When you're flying the airplane, you don't have time to think about fear, about potential outcomes. You just focus on your training and flying the airplane. As you mentioned, we were flying, it was a routine flight from San Diego. I do it quite often. Went to a charity dinner there, heading back with a friend, and everything was going normal. And they tell you when you are training to fly, they'll tell you, you learn that there's indications you can get beforehand that there's an imminent threat of a failure, such as you can smell fuel or fumes, maybe a cylinder that's hot. Usually engines don't just quit sporadically. In this case, yesterday, it was a total catastrophic failure. We were about, I would say, 5 miles off the coast of John Wayne, about to begin our descent into Van Nuys Airport, where the plane is based. And we were having a conversation, talking about the airplane a little bit. It was a beautiful night. It was pretty smooth. And out of the blue, the engine completely just quit with no warning or indication. The second that happens, you immediately fall back on your training and your muscle memory on what to do, sort of where to put the airplane, start troubleshooting, trying to get the engine restarted. Unfortunately, we did several attempts, wasn't able to get the engine restarted. Obviously, declared the emergency to air traffic control, let them know what's going on, and they cleared the runways to John Wayne. Initially, I wanted to try to land at John Wayne Airport. It would have been the best outcome, given that we were within 4 miles or 5 miles from the airport. We were about 5,000 feet, so not to get too technical in terms, but you should have about a 10-mile gliding range on that type of airplane. Unfortunately, in this case, we had a almost 40-mile-an-hour headwind from the Santa Ana winds that were working against us. So while under ideal circumstances it'd be possible to glide there, we weren't able to do it at that time.
And then you made the decision that you would not be able to land on a runway at an airport in Santa Ana. So what was going through your mind when you said, we got to put this thing down on a freeway?
So at some point along that process, we were heading for John Wayne. That was the plan. At some point, I eyeballed it and realized there's no way we're going to make John Wayne, given our ground speed and our altitude. It's not going to happen. And unfortunately, at night, over a densely populated metropolitan city, your options are very limited. So if we were in an area, almost anywhere outside of a congested city, you have a lot of options. There's a lot of different options where you can put down. When you're in a populated city, your options are limited, and they're even more limited when you're talking at night, because you can't identify, you can't look at a grass strip and say, okay, that looks like a good grass strip, I'll land there. You can't look at a beach and say, that looks like a clear beach, or the water. You wouldn't be able to see where the waves and the tides were going. So you don't have that option at night. It was a series of very last second decisions to divert from our course to John Wayne and make a left turn, look for a highway, find an opening on the highway, not to mention that there was an overpass that we had to clear, and put it down on the highway. And the fact that I'm alive and the fact that my passenger is alive and there's nobody hurt on the ground, not to mention no damages whatsoever to the airplane, I think is extremely rare and I would have to say a miracle.
A miracle indeed. Are you a hero?
I don't consider myself a hero in any way. And I think that a lot of it boils down to training and muscle memory. In retrospect, looking back, barely 24 hours ago, I don't remember a lot of the decisions I made. I know the outcome, but a lot of the things were done out of muscle memory. I don't remember doing certain things like putting the flaps down or certain maneuvers that I did. I don't remember doing them, but I know I did them looking back at it. And the only explanation is muscle memory, and that comes from training. Learning how to fly is something that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of advantages it can give you in your personal life. It also has a lot of responsibilities. Learning how to fly the airplane is not that hard. I mean, it doesn't take a long time to teach somebody how to fly an airplane, but that assumes that all the conditions are perfect and there's no abnormalities. You throw in a challenge, and that's where experience and training comes in. And I'm fortunate to have been given that circumstance and be able to sit here with you today and talk to you about it.
We're glad to have you here. And let me quickly ask you, well, let me quickly say before we move on, this was a single engine plane, a two-seater aircraft, if I'm correct.
It's a six-seater.
Six-seater, but two people on board.
Yeah.
You see the 55 freeway, and what were you thinking when you see the cars below? Did you think you might be able to make it?
So originally, and back to the element of the miracle I was saying to you, I'm not a big believer in God, but I didn't see the empty side of the freeway. I only saw because you're looking from the sky, you only see the headlights of the cars. I saw the cars heading in the opposite direction. So I just assumed in my head that it's a one-way street. Logic would tell you that if there's a one-way highway, there's got to be another side to it. And as I got closer, I saw that. But my initial thought was I'm going to land into oncoming traffic and hopefully they'll see me and they'll move away, which is kind of a scary thought if you think about it. Being a driver sitting in a car on the highway waiting in traffic and having a plane heads-on coming at you.
But in the end, you decided to go with head-on or into...
In the end, I noticed 4 open lanes. And from when I saw those lanes until I touched down was maybe 15 seconds. So it wasn't something that you can train for or plan for, in the sky and look at it and say, okay, that's where we're going to land right now. Let's plan this out. It was, I see it, I'm going for it, I'm taking it. And we were on the ground. I remember I looked at the passengers the second we touched down and I said, we're alive. We're going to walk away from this. And until that moment, while I was focusing on flying the airplane, that wasn't a thought that I had in my head. I knew this can end very messy.
Let me transition now to what you want USC students to take away from this. You mentioned that you don't believe you're a hero, but what would you like people at USC and people, aviation people, and everyone else across the country to learn from this experience?
Well, so I didn't agree to come talk here because I want to talk about the incident so quickly after. I agreed to come on and talk about it because I'm a student here at USC. I'm also a pilot. I also work full-time as a pilot for a commercial company while I'm studying here. And I think that the fact that on average 8 million people a day get on airplanes worldwide and not a scratch on an airplane or on a passenger in most cases, on average, I think it's remarkable. I think that while I just basically escaped death, I think that I would still stick behind it as far safer than any other mode of transportation. I think it's an incredibly safe thing, and I think that there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, and that's what training is for. That's what you learn to fly. I think that what I would like to take from this is I would like to encourage students at USC who are interested in either learning how to fly or just on the safety behind it, just to be more knowledgeable. I haven't put together how I'm going to do it, but I would like to start an organization or a club on campus where we can combine people's passion to do whatever it is their career is, at the same time, alongside potentially earn a pilot's license and learn these responsibilities and master them. Because I do think, right after the incident, we were picked up by a helicopter and we flew back. So I was back in the air within about an hour after the incident. I do think that while these things do happen on very rare occasions, it still remains the safest way to get around, and there's an incredible amount of opportunity in that to combine that with your career choice.
Is there anything you would like to add? Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Izzy Slodowitz, we appreciate you being here today. We're very glad you are alive and well and here to tell your story. And on behalf of all of us at Annenberg Media, I'm Eytan Wallace. We thank you for having us in today, and we wish you a very pleasant afternoon.